some months ago, the Abia State House of Assembly passed into law the Abia State House of Assembly Autonomy Bill following the Executive Order 10 given by President Muhammadu Buhari. The order empowers the Accountant General of the Federation to deduct from the Federation account the amounts due to state legislature from the monthly allocation due to the states. Now, in this particular bill, some states have passed this bill into law and it's quite operational. States like Ekiti, Delta, Sokoto, Zamfara, Ondo, and Cross River states, this particular independence of the state legislature bill, or which is now the law, is very much operational in those states. Today on the platform, we'll look at the law on the autonomy of the legislature as passed by the Abia State House of Assembly, but yet to be signed into law by the governor more than 30 days after its passage, as stipulated by the law. Welcome. This is the platform, the pinnacle of all discussion. And my name is Ginika Oluwaha.
At Flow 94.9 FM, we've got conducive and well-secured environment for business. High-tech video studio, a state-of-the-art production studio. You can also listen live on www.flow949fm.com and watch our videos on YouTube at Flow FM TV. Flow 94.9 FM, not just radio, but a complete broadcasting house.
Okay, joining me over the phone to discuss this topic today on the platform is the member representing Isukwato State Constituency at the Abia State House of Assembly. He's also a member of the Our Progressives Congress, Honorable Emeka Okorafor. Good morning, Honorable, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, my brother.
Okay, I want to start with this particular bill, which the House of Assembly has actually passed into law. Tell us, what is the position of that bill, or rather, it is a law now. Tell us what is the situation of that law.
Sorry, I'm not following. Which particular law are you talking about?
We are talking about the law passed into law, the bill passed into law, the Abia State House of Assembly Autonomy Bill, passed into law by the, I think, 7th House of Assembly here in Abia State. Tell us, yes, has it been signed into law or not, and what is the situation?
Well, Section 100 of 100 of the 1999 Constitution is very clear on manner and procedure of passing bill, and they said no bill becomes a law except the governor attends to it. I think we started that bill. It's an executive bill.
Okay.
Sent by the governor to the house. Mm-hmm. You know, it's an implementation deal because the issue of autonomy of houses of assembly of state and the judiciary has already been taken care by the constitution by the fourth alteration act of 2017 that was signed into the law by President Buhari, making houses of assembly and state judiciary autonomous. So what the bill seeks to do is to implement those the autonomy that's already been guaranteed by the Constitution. And in furtherance to that, the executive bills we are sent, I think HAB 39, 40, and 42, which we are considered expeditiously between ending of June and the first week or so of July. And it has been passed into law, and I want to believe that the clerk of the house should have sent a clean copy to the governor to assent or withhold, because that is the beauty of democracy, you know, checks and balances, because that's one area the governor can also check the legislative powers of the house, where he feels otherwise he may decide to withhold assent. But the Constitution is very clear on that. In Section 100, where the clean copy is sent to the executive governor for assent.
Okay.
He has within 30 days to either assent to it or withhold assent. And if he decides otherwise to withhold assent, then such bill can come back to the House to test its popularity.
Okay.
At least 2/3 of the members of the House agrees with it, then it becomes law without the assent of the governor. So I want to believe, because it's an executive bill, that it must have been sent to the governor for his assent. But I'm not in a position to say whether the governor has attended to it. If he has done, fine. If it has not done so, I hope he will do so.
Okay, now let's look at when you actually passed that bill into law. I mean, the State Assembly. When exactly did you pass that bill into law?
When?
Yes, when?
I'm sure it was between within that first or second week of July, before we went to recess.
And from July to now is more than 30 days. So what are we expecting from the State Assembly?
Well, the state, you start counting from the day the copy is sent to the governor for assent. So
okay, not the day the bill was passed by the
no,
Assembly.
from the day it was sent to the governor for assent. And I want to believe that the clerk must have done the needful and sent to the governor. You see, if there is no ceremony following it, you may not know.
Okay.
So I want to believe that the clerk of the house is listening, and I also believe that the commissioner for information.
Okay, now lack of okay, good. Now lack of this law in place, does it in any way affect your function as an arm of government?
I won't say so, but since it's a constitutional matter and we're all products of the Constitution, I want to believe we will all adhere to those provisions of the Constitution that said the houses of assemblies of state and judiciary should enjoy financial autonomy.
Okay, so many
people. It's not a question of whether we are being funded or not. It's a question of adherence to the constitutional provisions of the law, which is the ground norm of our laws.
Okay, so many people.
We are products of the Constitution.
Okay, so many people hold the view that because probably the executive have interest in this particular law, you are being arm twisted. Is that the true position?
No, I don't want to agree with that. The truth of the matter is that if you look at the 1999 Constitution, Section 121, I've been very clear on the issue of autonomy of the judiciary. But it was the fourth alteration of the Constitution, I think, for 2017, that they were able to have the necessary number to have that section to include houses of assemblies of state. I don't see. The checks and balances are very, very key, just to balance power with law and to safeguard the liberty of the citizens. That's the underlying factor of checks and balances. And I don't see any reason why any governor would not want the judiciary or the houses of assembly to be autonomous. I don't want to believe any governor would want to do that. And after all, situations of that will amount to breach of the Constitution. I don't think anybody is being twisted, but I think the political will is what is required.
Okay, now tell us, if we have this particular law in place in Abia State, what will Abians be expecting or be seeing from the lawmakers, the state lawmakers?
Well, what it will guarantee is, because with the non-independence in terms of finance of judiciary and the legislature, it cannot be clearly to say there is a complete separation of power strategies in the commission at the state level, like what we have at the national level, where, because that has always given rise that each head of this arm is autonomous on its own. So for me, it will deepen democracy. Two, it will also enhance the principle of checks and balance.
Okay, let me sincerely thank you, and we hope that very soon, if let's assume that the governor signs this into law, but if in a situation he fails, we'll be expecting the Abia State House of Assembly to do the needful. Is that the correct position?
Yeah, well, I want to believe that if this bill, the clean copy has been sent to the governor, I want to believe he must have signed it. If it has not been sent to him, then I think those who are responsible to do the needful procedure. But if the governor, for whatever reason, chose, because it's an executive bill, and I don't think there were much changes to the bill as it was sent to the House in the package. But there is nothing wrong if the governor decides to withhold assent a particular bill and it's sent back to the House. Then the popularity of that bill will be tested among members. And that's why if you take in Imo State, that has happened. And I think there are so many cases where a governor or president has withheld that central bill, and members, because of the popularity of the such law, have passed it into law. It's the beauty of democracy. It will also strengthen the arms of government.
When are we expecting the...
I want to believe it will be one of the issues that will has continued to generate interest, and I'm sure that the seventh house. I don't see the necessity of that bill coming back, because I want to believe it. If the governor, for whatever reason, is unable to sign all those aspects, I think they have to do it.
Okay, why I actually raise this issue is that most people believe that you've not been able to resume for plenary ever since you went on recess, and many people believe that is because the State House of Assembly is still an appendage of the executive. That's why you normally run to them to take decision before you now arrive to any particular decision you want to take.
There's theory and practice of constitutional law. They really don't. The way you see it in theory is not really the way you see it in practice. But for me, Abia State House of Assembly under the leadership of Peter, for me, I can't say it's an appendage of the governor. The people are entitled to hold the opinion. The governor has demonstrated knowledge of the separation of powers. I think he has, to a very large extent, demonstrated that. I don't think he was not the one who determined our speaker for us and not the principal of it. So I want to believe, to a very large extent, our democracy is still nascent and growing. But with autonomy, I'm very sure that it will strengthen that arm of the government. On the issue of we are on recess. The National Assembly just resumed
yesterday.
So, and they were been on recess before us, because we are trying to tidy up and pass those very important PKP 39, 40, 42, and others some very executive bills. That was what delayed us. So they went on recess before, and we expected to resume immediately after them. So there is no. It wasn't for any reason that we went on recess.
Okay, thank you.
Committees have been working. Public accounts has been there. Committee on public petition, which I chair, has literally been on feed all through this process. So the committees are working, and I don't think there's any practice. And now that the commissioner nominees have been sent to the House, I want to believe in a matter of days the House will consider and planning the House will resume.
Okay. Let me sincerely thank you, the member representing Isukwuato State constituency at the Abia State House of Assembly, Honorable Barrister Emeka Okorafor, for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you, my brother.
All right. Thank you so much. Well, there you have him, the member, a lawmaker, a state lawmaker, actually giving his own side of the story. But I have here in the studio with me a legal practitioner, a former commissioner here in Abia State, Barrister Okechukwu Osoaha. Barrister, good morning and welcome to the program.
Yeah, good morning, Genika, and thank you, our esteemed listeners.
Okay, you know what we are talking about,
exactly.
The issue of this independence of the state legislature.
Exactly.
What is the issue? How can we address this issue of state legislature, especially being an appendage of the executive, like so many Nigerians believe it? We have this law in place right now. The Abia State House of Assembly, they've passed it into law. You have the lawmaker there. But up to this moment, the governor has not signed it into law.
Thank you so much, Ngenika. But I would say I would disagree with you a little bit by saying that the House of Assembly is an appendage of the executive.
I say so many people.
But that's the opinion. You saw when the honorable member spoke, and he told you every other citizen has a right to his or her opinion. But what I want to tell you here is this: we look at it from, objectively. You see that doctrine of separation of power. The French philosopher Montesquieu, who actually propounded that doctrine of separation of power in a democracy, was so visionary, and he was very pragmatic in his thinking, that the power should not be concentrated in the arms of one particular arm of government, that it should be separated. That's why we have that separation of power. And that doctrine of separation of power presupposes that all the arms of government should be independent and autonomous, but there should be checks in their own domain, but there should be checks and balances. And like you said, in the state, the House of Assembly of the state, being independent is what is in question. And like you have already pointed out, even in the national level, the presidency, the president in his magnanimity or his visionary aspect of life, was able to give an executive order, asking the houses of assembly to make a law in order to make those houses of assembly of the various states of the federation to be autonomous. And you are saying that the one of Abia State has actually passed their bill. We call it a bill when it's still in the House of Assembly.
It's now a law. They've passed it into law.
But for it to be a law, actually, it has to be assented by the governor. And like the House of Assembly member, the one you spoke with, he told you, by law or constitutionally, the governor has the right to either assent or withhold his assent. Are you hearing me? That is to pass the bill, to give his assent or withhold his assent. But you said, you see, what happens, like our democracy it has been developing all the time from 1999 to date. Our democracy has been developing, and we want to deepen and strengthen that democracy by making those arms of government to be autonomous and independent. And you see, that is why those checks and balances are there. The oversight functions, even by the legislative arm. You have said one of the rules of the House, by the rules of the House, if a bill is sent to the governor of the state to assent and he refuses to assent, so in extreme circumstances, you find that if that bill comes back to the House of Assembly, they will do the needful. And what is the needful is to override that assent of the governor. Withholding that assent, they will override it by getting to third majority of the House. They will vote and the bill will still be passed into law. So these are things we are trying. But I know that the governor of the state, Dr. Okezi Ikpeazu, I know he's a very strong Democrat. He's a very, very, very good Democrat. And I know he will want to do the needful. Because we are looking at, after his government in the future, what legacy does he leave for the people of the state? And he would like to leave a very good legacy. That is a person that actually strengthened and deepened our democracy by making the arm of government, like the legislative arm, the House of Assembly, to be autonomous, both financially and otherwise. And even the judicial arm, we want the judiciary to be autonomous so that there will be checks and balances, and every arm of government will now work optimally to deliver the dividends of democracy.
Barrister, just hold on a bit. Let's look at the issue of implementation.
Okay.
We've had a series of laws in this country, even in this state. But the problem is the implementation. Who will implement this law? This is a state law, and if let's assume the governor doesn't want to sign yet, as it stands today. So who is going to implement it eventually if the House of Assembly vetoes this particular law? And who is going to implement? This is a state law, for Christ's sake. And of course, you know that the power resides with the executive to ensure the implementation of this law.
My brother, it is not in doubt. You have already pointed out, if you go through the Constitution, the Section 1 of the Constitution says that all citizens and institutions and organs in this country, that Constitution, they should be binded by that Constitution. Are you hearing me? And even the governor, before he assumed office, he took oath of allegiance that he will uphold the law and the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You have already pointed it out before that if actually that bill goes back to the House of Assembly and they are able to pass it into law, it will not be in that. You have already said in the ab initio that the president ordered the Accountant General of the Federation to deduct from the source. So the implementation will not be a big problem. But what we are looking for, we don't want a scenario where we now have acrimony or discord between the executive arm and the legislative arm in Abia State. Like I pointed out, that our governor is a good Democrat. I know he will do the needful. The implementation will not be a problem. But let it not go to that extreme circumstance or that extreme situation whereby the House will now be able to override or veto the withholder of assent of the governor.
Okay.
I know the governor will still assent. Let me look at it from the point of view. Maybe it's because of the exigencies of his office up till now. Maybe after 30 days, I've not been able to assent. But I know he will he will assent to it.
Okay.
And that executive, the law will be implemented to the letter, so that our democracy will be deepened and strengthened.
Just what I'll barrister. Let us now welcome a former lawmaker.
Okay.
He's joining us via phone. He's a former lawmaker here in Abia State. Mr. Honorable Chukwuemeka Osabaka. Thank you so much, Honorable, for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you, Ginika, and good morning.
Yeah, good morning. We're actually looking at this issue of the independence of the state legislature. We understand that Abia State House of Assembly has passed this particular bill into law, but as it stands today, the governor is said to assent to that particular is it now a law before it becomes operational. Tell us, the absence of this law, what is it going to do, especially to the functions of the state assembly?
Well, thank you, Ginika. The autonomy bill is it's a constitutional provision, for the three arms of government to function as checks and balances on each other. I think we don't know what the underpinnings, whether the governor has reached the Speaker of the House or if he has written back to the House to complain about some aspects of the bill. But if he hasn't, it's a constitutional provision that I think he will have to attend to.
Okay. Now, let us, so many people believe that the issue of the state legislature or the legislature generally in this country, they've become an appendage of the executive. Let's take, for instance, this bill, which has been passed into law. Can he also address this particular issue being raised by Nigerians?
Yes, obviously, the autonomy of the state legislative arm is enshrined in the Constitution, and the founders of our country and the Constitution actually did this to ensure that governance has some form of checks and balances, and none is dependent on the other, but rather complementary. So it's to the interest of the state that the State House of Assembly is autonomous. One, it would ensure their efficiency in terms of making laws, their oversight functions, and all that, and they function faster because you don't have to go and wait on the executive endlessly until maybe the governor is happy or the accountant general is happy enough to release funds to an arm of government. The autonomy provides for efficiency in governance, and I think it's a good one, and it's been accepted by all the governors in the states in Nigeria.
Okay.
In fact, I think some states have even started implementing theirs.
Yeah.
States like Ebonyi, Kwara, and a couple of them.
Yeah, I know about. Now, you were a lawmaker some time ago in Abia State. I know that sometimes the executive want to have their way in choosing who becomes what in the state assembly, even over there in the National Assembly. Should this law come into place, are we going to see that being jettisoned?
Well, you can never override the powers of the executive, but at least it gives the various chambers more. It makes them their own. They are able to run themselves and choose their leaders and actually carry out their oversight functions in the interest of the public, who elected them. So I think that it's a good one. I think that it will make for efficiency, and I think it will create the needed checks and balances, and ultimately the multiplier effect would lead to development, rapid development.
Some states that do not have this law, do you think the governors are quite afraid that if they grant this law, or if they sign it, or if it becomes operational in their various states, that those state lawmakers will become too powerful? Is that the true position?
Well, there are three arms of government. There are three arms of government, and no one is supposed to be more powerful than the other. Okay. So the issue of becoming so powerful does not arise. The governance is for the people. Is to ensure the social contract between the people and the state. To ensure people have the security, people have the infrastructural development, and harmony in the society. So the issue of one arm of government being stronger than the other does not arise. But I think should be removed as the middleman, in terms of allotting funds to the other arms of government. It should be direct, so that we have a more transparent system of governance in Nigeria.
Okay. Let me sincerely thank you, former lawmaker here in Abia State, Honorable Chukwuemeka Osabaka, for joining us on the program this morning.
Thank you very much, Kinika.
All right. Now back to you, Barrister Osoha. Now, you heard when I asked the former lawmaker, exactly. Is it that some governors, some governors of some states where you do not have these laws operational, is it that they are afraid, or of seeing this state house of assembly becoming so powerful and finding it so difficult to control them?
My brother, like you heard when the last speaker said, there's nothing like every other person coming to rule in Nigeria or govern in Nigeria should be bounded by the ground norm of our law, which is the Constitution. It's a constitutional matter, making all the arms of government independent and autonomous, but providing for checks and balances. Like all the other states, whatever they are doing, maybe they are buying time. Because if every state in the federation passes law making the houses of assemblies of various states autonomous, and then your particular state refuses to do that, the person will now be a pariah person, because he must come back and do the needful. So I see is a wind of change. Are you hearing me? When people are talking about restructuring in this country to make for a better country where everybody will be happy, you will see that the other day the issue of collection of taxes by the federal government through the Federal Inland Revenue.
Yes, because I was going to come to that. Is that why we are not having that law?
Look at it now. Look at what the River State and Eye Opener, they raised that bar. They were able to go to court challenging the Federal Inland Revenue, collecting taxes. And even Lagos State have joined. And other states in the Federation are joining. These states are trying to deepen democracy in our country and making for restructuring. Because if you go to the Constitution, there's what we call the exclusive legislative list of the reserved for the federal government, and taxation, especially those income tax, what we call taxation, transaction taxes, and all those capital gain taxes, they are not reserved for the federal government in the exclusive legislative list. But that federal inland revenue have been collecting over years alone for the federal government. When you have companies in River State, like oil companies, like in Abia State, we have companies here, and they are doing business in Abia, and federal government collects those revenue, the stamp duty, and all of them appropriate it alone. So with this law now, if at the end of the day they go to the Supreme Court and they're able to get a judgment, and you hear me, there's restructuring. So when you are talking about autonomy of the houses of assembly and then the legislative arm and the judiciary, everybody should queue into it, so that at the end of the day democracy will be deepened and strengthened in the country. So every other state, like I told you, will always take a cue. They will abide and follow what other states are doing. It is gradual process. Are you hearing me? The House of Assembly of Abia State have passed their own bill, and they are waiting for governor to assent, which I have told you ab initio. I know our governor is a good Democrat. He will assent to it, and you will see we move from there. So other states should queue in. We are going to make Nigeria to be a better country for all the citizens of this country. That's what I would tell you.
Okay, if you're just joining us, this is the platform, the pinnacle of all discussion. And this morning we are looking at that bill which has been passed into law by the Abia State House of Assembly. The Abia State House of Assembly Autonomy Bill, it has been passed into law, but I don't know, up to this moment, the governor is said to sign that particular, bill. into law, making it operational. That's what we are looking at in today's edition of the program, The Platform. And it's time for us to have your own input and contributions as regards to this topic. The numbers to call are 080-8182-6949 or 08116052949. You can also send your SMS on 090-651-08289. Hello, good morning. Hello? Okay. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Gineka.
Good morning, Prince. Well, welcome.
Thank you, my brother. Good morning, Honorable in the studio. Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, my dear brother.
Like he has already introduced me, I'm Mr. Swag Prince from there, no more natural go. Good morning to all of you in the studio.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The issue whether they to be passed the autonomy to the houses of assembly, to me, I'm seeing it as unconstitutional. The Constitution has made it ab initio, like the barrister has said there. There is no way, if under normal circumstances, that the separation that ought to be to make democracy strengthened shouldn't have been captured by the executive. I believe that law being enshrined in the Constitution has been amended of 1999 Constitution should have been left that way instead of giving more powers by any means to executive. For us to go back to executive, asking them to renege from that their plans to come back to what Constitution has made, to me, I'm seeing it as being unconstitutional. Under normal circumstances, we ought to have touched into that whether the lawmakers, that the legislature should be given autonomy or not. So let me come to other state on the one that are about to be happened. I know that our governor is a Democrat and he may pass it, but let me be frank and patriot to everybody, whether you like it or not. The governor of Abia State will sign that law, and I'm saying the time of being signing that law, it will be at the 11th hour at the time at which you are about to be leave office, and he leave it for his successor. Whenever his successor comes, whatever he does with the lawmakers, that one is left for him. But for now, any lawmaker telling us is going to pass that law for now, well, if he does, good, but if he doesn't, as a political analyst I am, he may pass it, but at the 11th hour of his administration.
Okay.
That's what I think. God bless you.
Okay, thank you so much. Hello?
Good morning, Jenica.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Barrister.
Yeah, good morning, my dear brother.
Yeah, my name is Victor Emmanuel Ndeboka, and I'm calling from MSCB.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I want to say that the tenets of democracy, as we practice under a presidency system, the compartmentalization of the hands of government to three different compartments, and the press as the real estate of the realm. Now, when you allow the autonomy of each of these different compartments in the various arms of government, you will achieve good dividends of democracy. Because democracy is all about the people. What are the people intended to achieve from any government in power? The situation where we find ourselves in Nigeria, where the executive arm is the only recognized arm of government that have overriding power above all other arms of government, have made governance in Nigeria very difficult. And it has made it difficult in a way that the people do not have reasonable.
Hello? Your lines are actually bad. I just hope you will move a bit and probably call us back. The numbers to call are 080-8182-6949 or 08116052949. You can also send your SMS on 090-651-08289. Hello?
Hello? Hello, good morning, Jenica.
Good morning, welcome.
It's okay for Chinedum, calling from Omai.
Go ahead.
Okay. My take this morning, just like our guest on the house said, we know our governor is a Democrat, and he is also a gentleman who knows the needs of the people. I know the bill that is pending will most surely be signed by him. Then on the independence of the legislator,
in Abia State, I know they have been having good rapport. And I know they have been working hand in hand to achieve one goal. There have never been any rancor. The only thing I want to tell the legislators in Abia State is just for them to stand to take certain decisions concerning the development of Abia State. They are working hand in hand. They should still use that relationship that have been existing among the two arms of government to ensure that there will be equal development all around the state. That is my take this morning.
All right. Thank you so much. Barrister, you heard when somebody called and said the governor might sign this bill at the 11th hour. If that happens, is that the best?
Like I said, I
asked you, is there any fear for some of these governors for not signing this particular bill?
I will not preempt him. He is the chief executive officer of the state. When that person, the speaker who made that remark, you saw me. I a little bit. I was amused. I laughed, but I know because the governor, I said it. I believe he's a good Democrat. He will want to leave a legacy, but the time is right now. Are you hearing me? Because we are all expectant, and everybody is expecting him to do the needful, pass that law, and sign to that law, and not allowing. Because by the end of the day, if he refuses to assent to it, we analyze what will be the consequences. The consequences is that law at a point will be taken back to the House of Assembly, which they will override him. And if that happens, that will be is a bad omen, because it will now point out that there's a disagreement or there's no unity between the executive arm and the legislative arm in the state. Are you hearing me? Which somebody pointed out there have been that amicable relationship, cordial relationship between the state and the governor, the executive and the legislative arm. So allowing that be for them to override him or veto him will not be proper. I know he will assent to it, and very soon. I don't know, but like I pointed out, it could have been maybe the exigencies of his office, because there are a lot of workload on the office and the table of the governor. But I know he will not wait till the last day of his government assembly. But however he does it, I know he will want to strengthen and deepen our democracy. Thank you.
Okay, let's allow you to call in now. Please make that call right now. The numbers again are 080-8182-6949 or 0811-605-2949. You can also send your SMS on 090-651-08289. Now, Barrister, you know that some lawmakers in the past, even in the states, have asked some salient questions about the financial transaction of the state, and probably they did not get the answer, the appropriate answer to their questions. If this law goes through, if the governor signs it, will he guarantee the lawmakers, that platform for them to ask reasonable questions and get answers from the executive?
Thank you so much. That is what you've said now is one of the essence or beauty of democracy. Democracy thriving by the rule of law. And what is it? Asking questions, like we say, oversight function, you will see is one of the most beauty aspect of that legislative arm. In their oversight function, they can inquire, they can investigate what the executive arm is doing or the judicial arm is doing. Like because every year, this year now, the House of Assembly is bedeviled by there's a one serious function or duty that they perform every year, that is appropriation. And when they talk about appropriation, that's passing the budget for the whole state. All the money, the financial transaction that will go on in that state, they will be able to pass a budget, and they will appropriate amounts to different departments and institutions and organs and bodies to be able to use in the development of the state. So they have that function, and a very primary and important and fundamental duty to ask those institutions and bodies, come and explain to us how you have been spending the money of the state, the taxpayers' money. How have you been spending it? So like you mentioned now, if at the end of the day this bill for autonomy is passed, it gives to a more ground and more powers to be able to exercise and do this their function, which is very fundamental.
All right,
it's very fundamental for democracy. Thank you.
Hello?
All right, yeah, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning.
Kindly move away from your radio set, please.
Yes, I've done that.
I can still hear a whole back at the background. Go ahead. What's your name?
My name is Christian.
Okay. From where?
I'm calling from Umaya.
Go ahead, Christian.
Barrister, good morning.
Thank you, my brother.
That's a good move of legislation trying to pass the autonomy. Let the judiciary have their autonomy, then perform on their own way. But I have a little question.
Okay.
Why did this state legislation find it difficult to pass local government autonomy? And local governments have a good way to play, at least to reach to the poor in the community and all that. But they are working hard to pass a state legislation into a law. Is that not a self-interest?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Barrister, I know that the issue of local government autonomy is a constitutional matter. I think they are doing the amendment.
Exactly.
Now,
that's why I wanted to come. That local government issue is very sensitive, and there are more to it. The House of Assembly passing a bill for the autonomy does not end there. You have pointed it out now. It's a constitutional matter. There are a lot of provisions in the Constitution that is allowing that local government the autonomy to have a little issues. Are you hearing me?
Yeah, let's take this call. I'll return to you.
Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, welcome.
Yeah, that's also good morning.
Thank you, my brother.
I'm Pastor Sandy Kalamet I'm calling you now from Umogoromfase.
Welcome, go ahead.
This topic now is very, very good, this discussion. And for me, if the governor can be able to pass this, sign this here, it will be a pass mark for him. That's the other way around. It will be impossible for him to sign it into law. Because not only in Niger State, almost all the 35 states in Nigeria minus excluding Abuja and one other state have not been able to sign this law to pass this law. So for him, if he eventually tries, good. But the other way around also, the local government autonomy should be the first thing for them to talk about, not even this law. So that local government authority have their own autonomy. And that is what the people in the grassroots, in the rural area are agitating for. So this passing lawmaker and this and that is not the prerogative of the, that is not the issue now. The right issue is local government autonomy, financial autonomy. You saw what happened with the Agon chairman, and they threatened him and they did this. So let them also look into the local government autonomy first thing first. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Hello, good morning. Okay, now, like he pointed out, but I like we were saying before we picked that call, the issue of local government autonomy, can it scale through when it's a constitutional amendment matter, the National Assembly, but you still need 2/3 of the state houses of assembly. But can that be possible when the state legislators are not autonomous? They don't have the independence. It simply means that the executive will still decide for them which way to go, whether to allow the local government autonomy or not. Is it not better to address the issue of the state legislature's autonomy before we now talk about local government? Barrister.
Thank you so much. Like you know, the uniqueness of that local government system in Nigeria, and very, very important. You have mentioned about the constitutional aspect, but we know that the houses of assembly, all the laws guiding local governments are made by the houses of assembly, the houses of a state. They should go ahead and pass their law that makes local government autonomy. That one is not in doubt. But then, primarily, we want to see the federal government do the needful by amending the constitution. If you go to section 162 of the constitution, it provided that there should be a joint account between the state and the local government. And that's where this autonomy problem is coming from. When you now bring the statutory allocation, revenue allocation that comes for the local government from the federation account, are you hearing me? You bring it to the state and it goes to that joint account. Are you hearing me? You now find out that there should still be that the state will have that tampering with that funds. But at the end of the day, some of those provisions in the constitution should be amended. and when they are amended, making it more autonomous, that local government system, then the houses of assembly should go ahead and pass any law making the local government autonomous. We want to see a democracy in this country where all the arms and institutions, strong institutions is what we are requiring in this country. When we have strong institutions, every arms of government are functioning optimally and independently and autonomously, you will now see that there will be great development. Things will work in this country. That's what we are saying.
In addition to the strong institution, now we are still talking about what other things that you think these people can do to make sure that this particular, especially not only in Abia State but other states, sign this particular bill into law or have it operational in other parts of the country, in other states?
Thank you so much. By the time the House of Assembly, they have passed their bill and they are sent it to the governor and governor assents to it, or even he withholds his assent, they are still the legal process and procedure. We have said it. The bill can still be taken back to the House where they will override and veto the withholder of assent by the governor and still pass it into law. And when they pass it into law, the laws must be implemented in this country. And when it is being implemented, you have said it, from the federal government, we have the Revenue and Physical Mobilization Commission, we have the Accountant General of the Federation. There will be a directive where they can deduct their funds and put it in a very consolidated account at ERB, and they will assess it. But the important thing, let it be there's a law covering it. Anything we do must be in accordance with the law. The rule of law must prevail. That's what I'll tell you.
Okay, Barrister Okechukwu Osoha, former commissioner and a public affairs analyst, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, my dear brother Ngeneka, and thank you, our esteemed listeners.
And to Honorable Barrister Emeka Okorafor, the member representing Isukwata State Constituency at the Abia State House of Assembly, thank you so much. And the former lawmaker who joined us via the phone, Chukwuemeka Osabaka, thank you so much. And to all of you who called in, thank you so much. My name is Ginika Olwa. The platform returns on Friday, immediately after 10 o'clock news. Till then, good morning. Enjoy your day.